Good evening, everybody. And this is The Truth About Truman School, and this is part 2. This is the second reading for this book. And we start off now with Lily. Everyone thinks the whole thing started with Zebby and Amber's stupid website. But for me, it started with an email I got somewhere around the time that website first went up. The subject line read, "For Lily," and it was from somebody who called him or herself Milk and Honey. I had no idea who that was, but I opened the email anyway. There was just one line, "Dear Lily, you are going down." My first thought was, who is this? My mom wanted to know why I didn't say anything about that email when I first got it, and didn't think about it until I got another email. This one said, "Dear Lily, have you visited truthabouttruman.com yet? If not, you should." This email bugged me a little more than the first one. I guess because it was a second email from Milk and Honey, and I didn't know who that was. But there was no threat in that second email, just a question. Have you visited truthabouttruman.com yet? I hadn't. I'd heard of it. Haley had sent me an email about it a couple days earlier, but I hadn't gotten around to checking it out yet. After I read that email, though, I got on the Truth About Truman website to see what it was. It looked like an online newspaper about our school. There was an article about the math curriculum that looked kind of boring, so I didn't read it, and another article about how 5 minutes isn't enough time between classes, a list of stupid Truman rules, and a place where you could write about a bad teacher you've had. You could even vote for the worst teacher at Truman. Mr. Reddy was way in the lead. Big surprise. He was always yelling, and if your cell phone went off during his class, he took it away and didn't give it back for like a week. It didn't say anywhere whose website this was, but something like this had Zebby Bauer's name all over it. I should know. I used to be friends with her. We started like 5 different newspapers together when we were kids. Her, me, and Amber Nasser. The truthabouttruman.com looked all right. It looked better than the last newspaper Zebby tried to start. At least this time she'd managed to start something that people actually wanted to read. But I couldn't figure out why Milk and Honey, whoever that was, wanted me to see it so bad. It was just a computer newspaper. Then I got the third email. "Dear Lily, I know you've seen the truthabouttruman.com by now. You should know there's going to be a special surprise on that website on Friday featuring you. Make sure you log on. You won't be sorry. Or maybe you will. Ha ha ha. Milk and Honey." Trevor. I'm a little surprised everyone's making such a big deal about all this. So few people said and did some mean things to Lily Clark online. So what? I've put up with way worse things. I've had my head shoved in the toilet, I've been pushed downstairs, and I've had my butt superglued to a bench in the locker room. I hang out in the media center for half an hour every day after school and shelve books for Mrs. Conway, just so I don't have to walk home when everyone else is walking home. Things got so bad for me last year that I actually went to see Mrs. Horton, the school counselor, which turned out to be a huge mistake. She wanted me to name names. Yeah, right, like I would really do that. Was she trying to get me killed? When I told Mrs. H to forget it, I wasn't going to tell her who'd been hassling me. She sat back in her chair and made a little steeple out of her 2 pointer fingers. "Well then," she said, "maybe things aren't quite as bad as you're making them out to be." I didn't know what to say to that, because things were actually quite a bit worse than I was making them out to be. And unless you're the kind of person who avoids going to the bathroom at school and or has to hang out in the media center after school till everyone else leaves, you have no idea what it's like. So, let me tell you, nobody likes to admit they're getting pounded every second the teacher's back is turned. So I just said, yeah, I guess not. And then I started to get up. At least I'd already missed the first 10 minutes of PE. The other guys would already be in the gym, so the locker room would be safe. But Mrs. H pointed to my chair. "Sit back down, Trevor," she said. She seemed surprised that I was ready to leave. "Let's talk about this some more," she said, acting all concerned. "You're clearly having some sort of issue with your peers." "Clearly." "Does it have something to do with your mother?" "No," I said right away, because not everything was about my mother. "Well, then why do you suppose you're having so much trouble with the other kids, Trevor?" she asked, like this was some big mystery she just couldn't figure out. Well, gee, Mrs. H, I thought, could it be that this school is full of Never mind, I won't say it. What would be the point? I bet Mrs. H was popular when she was in school. That was why she said such stupid things sometimes. She just couldn't relate to what kids like me go through sometimes. Finally, Mrs. H leaned across her desk like she was about to tell me something that was going to change my life. You know, Trevor, she said, sometimes we do things without even realizing it that sort of set us apart from the other kids. If you could just try a little harder to get along, try a little harder to be more like the other kids, maybe you'd be happier. See what I mean about Mrs. H? Basically, she was telling me to just do what everyone else was doing, be like everyone else, then everything will be fine. Right. Fat lot of good all that did, Lily Clark. Anonymous. Write 2 versions of what happened. That's what Zebby Bauer wanted people to do. Write the nice school version for language arts and then write the truth for the website. Well, guess what? I did that. I wrote 2 versions, but I have to tell you, the version I turned into Zebby still isn't the whole truth. I couldn't write the whole truth, not even for her, because even though she's going to change everyone's name, people from Truman will still be able to figure out who I am just by what I wrote. So I decided to write a 3rd version, this version. You won't be able to tell who I am by the things I write in this version. This version is going to be totally anonymous, which means I can tell you things this time around that I couldn't tell you before. The first thing I wanted to tell you is everyone's making Lily Clark out to be this huge victim. Lily wasn't a victim. She deserves what she got. The second thing I wanted to tell you is I've wanted to bring Lily Clark down for a long time. I thought I could bring her down by sending a few emails now and then and scaring her a little. But the truth about Truman site came along. The truth about Truman made it easy to bring her down. Lily. My boyfriend Reese and I instant messaged each other almost every day after school. I loved saying that, my boyfriend Reese. Technically, I wasn't supposed to be on the computer after school, but after school was the best time to be on the computer because my mom was at work. So I didn't have to worry about her standing over my shoulder and watching what my friends and I were saying to each other. Almost every time I was on the computer, I had a conversation with Reese going on in one window, a conversation with Haley and Brianna going on in a second window, and a conversation with somebody else going on in a third window. Haley and Brianna were always trying to get me to tell them what Reese and I talked about. Honestly, if I can turn the page. Honestly, we never talked about anything very interesting. Most of the time we just did our pre-algebra together, or we talked about weird things like vegetables. I remember once, Reese tried to convince me that ketchup was a vegetable. I said it was a condiment. We went back and forth for like 20 minutes. Reese was so funny. That's why I liked him. That, and he was cute. But I couldn't tell Haley and Brianna that Reese and I were talking about vegetables. So I just said all mysterious like, wouldn't you like to know? With little smiley faces. Ooh, Brianna typed. I used to think my life was so great back then. I had good friends, a cute boyfriend, popularity. I had everything. But then it all went away. Just like that. Brianna. Hello? Had no one but me noticed that Lily was a total boyfriend stealer? Haley and Reese used to go out in 5th grade. Everyone knew that. Even people who didn't go to Central with us knew that. Okay, so maybe Lily didn't exactly steal Reese away from Haley, but wasn't there like a rule that said you don't go after your friends' ex-boyfriends? You didn't see me going after Reese, did you? But Haley never complained about Lily and Reese. She was always, oh, aren't they a cute couple? Which I thought was very mature of her. I'm sure deep down it really bothered her. Lily did stuff like that all the time. She was totally selfish. In fact, maybe that's why this whole thing happened. Why people stopped liking Lily, I mean. And why they posted some of that stuff about her online. If you're the kind of person who goes after your friends' ex-boyfriends, you shouldn't be surprised if people get tired of you. Haley. So why didn't our group think about doing an underground school newspaper or website thingy? We're the ones who really should be telling everyone about our school because, well, let's be honest, we're the ones who run things around here. Me and Brianna and Reese and Jonathan. Our regular school paper, The Bugle, was so lame. Nobody ever read it. People were reading the truth about Truman, though. They were posting on it, too. You have to admire people who get something like going like that, even if they aren't in our group. So I got to thinking, maybe there was something else our group could get going at Truman, like a cheerleading squad. We didn't have any cheerleaders at our school. None. Can you believe it? Last year I asked our principal, Mr. Gates, if we keep turning 2 pages. If we could start a cheerleading squad, but he said no. He said the school doesn't have enough money for another activity. I said it didn't have to cost money. Lily, Brianna, and I would cheer at all the football, basketball, and baseball games, wherever there were cute guys, for free. But Mr. Gates still said no, because it wasn't about paying us to cheer, it was about paying one of the teachers to be our faculty advisor, and the school couldn't do that. So, no cheerleading squad. But the truth about Truman didn't have a faculty advisor either. Those kids, whoever they were, ran that whole thing all by themselves. So I got to thinking, why couldn't Lily, Brianna, and me start a cheerleading squad all by ourselves? All we had to do was buy some cute outfits and show up and cheer. We didn't need an advisor, any more than the people who started that website needed one. Lily and Brianna were just as excited as I was when I IM'd them my idea later that night. They were all, yeah, we should totally do it. That would be great. So I said, maybe that website, The Truth About Truman or whatever, would do an article on us. After all, they're an underground newspaper, and we're an underground cheerleading squad. Maybe, Brianna wrote back. In fact, maybe they'll even take videos of us cheerleading and post them on the site. Maybe, I said. I waited for Lily to say something, but she didn't. Reese had probably IM'd her, so she was probably writing him back to him. He was cute, but he was boring, and he expected you to drop everything whenever he came online. That's why I dropped him. Oh well, I emailed The Truth About Truman and informed them of our school now had our very own underground cheerleading squad, and that they, the Truth About Truman people, should come to Friday's game and write an article about us and shoot some video for their website. We could be like their next big feature. Zebby. Amber called me to tell me we had some email to answer. It was addressed to the webmaster for The Truth About Truman. Whoa, some email? I asked, as in more than one email? Yeah. I slipped on my Crocs and hurried down the street. Imagine my disappointment when I saw that one of the emails was from Haley Wood, and she was blathering on about some brand new underground cheerleading squad. Give me a break. And how we should cover it for The Truth About Truman. I plopped into a chair next to Amber. Why didn't you tell me one of the emails was from her? I asked. What difference does it make who they're from? Amber asked. What's important is they're from people who are reading The Truth About Truman. I just glared at Amber. He knew how I felt about Haley and Lily and that whole popular crowd. Didn't he feel the same way? Maybe not. Boys didn't get as caught up in stuff like that as girls did. Which was probably why I preferred to hang out with Amber instead of most of the girls at Truman. The thing is, Amber began, like it or not, if people like Haley and Lily and Jonathan and Reese are reading The Truth About Truman, then their friends are probably reading it too. And if all the popular kids are reading it, then everyone's reading it. Yeah, but nobody knows it's our website, I said. If people knew it was ours, do you think anyone would read it? Do you think Haley would read it if she knew we were the ones writing all that stuff on it? I don't know, Amber said. That's why we have to think about how we're going to respond to her email. We can't cover her cheerleading squad, not if we're going to stay anonymous. Amber paused. We do want to stay anonymous, don't we? We definitely want to stay anonymous, I said. Which means we can't cover the cheerleading squad. Oh, darn, I snapped my fingers. No, but we could tell them they can write an article and post it themselves, Amber said. They can post their own video, too. If they can figure out how to do it. I made a face. I did not want cheerleading stuff on The Truth About Truman. We said this was everyone's newspaper, Amber pointed out. Doesn't everyone include people like Haley and her crowd? I sighed. I wish I didn't have to, but Amber had a point. So this is what we wrote to Haley. Dear Haley, The Truth About Truman is everybody's website. That means anyone can post an article or a picture or a video. Feel free to write whatever you want about your cheerleading squad and upload your videos. Email us back if you don't know how to do it. I'm sure everyone would love to hear how you started your cheerleading squad and see your video. Good luck. Truth About Truman webmaster. Amber thought we should say that bit about how everyone would love to hear how she started her underground cheerleading squad, as if it were really that hard, and see her video to butter her up, and keep her and her friends reading our site. It about killed me to type those words, but I did, for the good of our site. Now, who's the other email from? I asked after I sent our response to Haley. I don't know, Hammer replied. Comic Book Hero 365. Any idea who that is? Not a clue, I said. Trevor. Okay, I'm kind of into comic books. Not just reading them, but drawing them too. I had this one, well, it was about a math nerd named Nero. Nero was this 8th grader who didn't have any friends. He got picked on and stuff because he was like a human calculator. But then one day he saved this homeless guy's life, and the guy gave Nero superpowers. So he went out and he saved the world and stuff. Sounds weird, I know, but it was actually pretty good. I mean, it had a good story, and, well, the drawings weren't bad either. I just sort of wondered if maybe the people who were doing the truth about Truman ever thought about having a comic strip on their website. The only thing was, I didn't want them to know who I was, because, well, let's face it, I wasn't exactly the coolest guy in school. We all know that, right? People would probably laugh if they knew I wanted to do a comic strip about an 8th grade superhero. Of course, they'd probably laugh no matter what I wrote a comic strip about. Kids at school were always laughing at me. Half the time I didn't even know why. But everyone likes comics, even cool kids like comics. Have you ever met anyone who doesn't like comics? It's the most popular section in the newspaper. So I emailed the truth about Truman about my idea. I scanned in a couple frames from Nero to show them I could draw and that I knew how to put a comic strip together. I told them a little about the story, but I also said I could do a whole new comic if they wanted. It didn't have to be Nero. It could be any kind of comic they wanted. It could be a story or a single frame, color or black and white. I didn't know what else to say. That was probably good enough. I signed my email Comic Book Hero 365, which was also my email address. I was pretty sure nobody at school knew who that was. Nobody at school even knew I could draw. Then I grabbed my mouse and moved the cursor over to the send button. But I couldn't quite bring myself to click it. What was I thinking, trying to pass myself off as a comic strip artist? No way would these people who were doing the truth about Truman, whoever they were, be interested in anything I sent them. For a middle school website or newspaper or whatever it was really professional looking. There were probably 10 other people lined up to do comics for them, and all 10 of those people were probably way better artists than I was. For sure, they were more popular than I was. But what if no one else had volunteered to do a comic for them? What if they really wanted a comic? I'd never know if I didn't send the email, so I clicked send before I could change my mind. 45 minutes later, I had a response. Dear Comic Book Hero 365, the truth about Truman is everybody's website. That means anybody can post an article, a picture, a video, or a comic strip. We like your comic a lot, so we think you should definitely post it. Let us know if you need help. Truth About Truman, Webmaster. Wow, did I read that right? They liked my comic strip a lot? I got goosebumps when I read that. This was one of the best things that had ever happened to me. I started to imagine this whole big thing where everyone at school would be trying to figure out who Comic Book Hero 365 was, even the cool kids. And when everyone found out it was me, they'd come up and say stuff like, Trevor, we had no idea you were so great. Before I knew it, I'd be the guy everyone wanted to hang out with. I'd get invited to all the parties, and girls like Haley Wood would be all over me. I'd be so busy, I wouldn't have time to be a comic book hero anymore. We're going to stop there for the evening. And I hope you're enjoying the story so far. And tune back in on Wednesday for the 3rd installment. See you later.